There's a certain responsibility being the last person in the day. So thank you very much for being awake, and thank you very much for being here. So if I was to ask you to tell me a story about a place that you care about deeply, a place that just pulls on your heartstrings, a place that maybe you go to in your head, what would you say? What would your story be? Would you talk about sitting around a fire and telling stories when you were a child, maybe when you were on camp? Maybe, I think it's called s'mores here that you make. Would it be about community? What would your story be? Would it be about a land where your ancestors are buried that pulls you back through the generations? Would that be your story? Would it be a grand scale landscape that makes you feel small as a human? Or somewhere that you've been that you just cannot forget because of its beauty and its wonder? Or would it be something that is closer to home? Perhaps a tree that you planted when your children were born, and that you've watched grow, and that reminds you when you sit under it about the stories in your family and the land where your feet are buried in the sand. Conservation is personal, and land is personal. This is an African river, the Lugenda River, that belongs to northern Mozambique. It starts in Malawi, just inside Mozambique, in Malawi with Mozambique, and it flows all the way through Niassa Special Reserve. It is a very special wild and African river. And this year, in July, Keith and I, with a team of 5 of our staff, did a survey of 450 kilometers of the Lugenda River over 29 days, completely kind of unsupported in 4 inflatables, to find out how the river was doing. This is the lifeblood of Niassa Special Reserve. It was an extraordinary experience, particularly for our team, most of whom have been born in Niassa Reserve, who had some experience with fishing and indigenous knowledge, to see this river go through the rapids, meet the hippos, and talk to the fishermen. Because the most important reason that we did this survey was to be able to find out how the fishermen who fish on this river feel about their river. Because the reserve is developing a fisheries management plan, and we wanted to make sure that their voices and their thoughts about the river were included into this plan. So we did 50 local language interviews with fishermen on their islands to find out, what is your story? And we asked them the question that I've just asked you. If you were to tell me a story about the Lugenda River to someone that hasn't been here, their father hasn't been fishing here, what would you say? What does it mean? And the responses were extraordinary. The river is my mother and my father. I tell my children that when you have nothing else to do not go poaching. Go to the river, because the river will provide you with the fish that you can sell and the fish that you could eat. And when I asked them, who does the river belong to? They said the river belongs to God. The river belongs to the fishermen whose bodies are buried on the islands and have been fishing on this river for hundreds of years. Conservation is personal. And when you have these moments and experiences, that is where coexistence sits. And we've heard the word coexistence all through today. Everybody is talking about the coexistence of communities and wildlife. But you cannot have coexistence if you separate people from the land that they love, the places that they know, and the indigenous knowledge of that wildlife. And that is why it is so essential that we change the conservation models to make sure that conservation includes people. Because when people protect what they love, they will keep it going, and they will continue to conserve it for many generations ahead. And there is nothing more important for coexistence of carnivores than that connection to the land. Because the thing about coexistence is it's not peaceful. There are moments when lions kill people and kill livestock. There are moments when people kill lions. But it is that ability to live together into the future. And when you talk to people in Niassa Special Reserve, they never say, I wish the lions were gone, because that is what coexistence is. Niassa Special Reserve, which lies in northern Mozambique, is 16,000 square miles. It's called Special Reserve because it has 60,000 people in it. It's not a normal protected area. And these people have never been removed from Niassa. They have a deep and continuous line, a generational line of connection to the land. And why did a Lion Project do a river survey? Well, first of all, it's a wonderful experience for all of us, and I got to do work that I love and work that I'm good at, but also because people eat fish 4 or 5 times a week. And if the fishery were to collapse, then people would find their protein elsewhere. And one of the most critical threats to lions in the Niassa Special Reserve is bushmeat poaching. And that is the other source of protein. We can never look only within our projects and our species and the most obvious answers. We need to look broader, and we need to keep that fishery going. It is the ultimate green economy. And if those fish are stable and the river is healthy, then lions will be fine too. Because it is bushmeat snaring that not only kills lions' prey, but also hurts the lions themselves. And that is the foundation of the work that we've been doing for 22 years. It is to find ways for people and lions to coexist and thrive. When I got back from the river survey, I asked our lion team, what is the story that you will tell me? Tell me a story about lions. What do lions mean to you? Because I was interested to hear the answers. Samuel, who's from Mbamba village, said to me, I like to look in their eyes. Every time I see a lion in the bush, I try to get them to look at me, because when I look at them, I see that connection and I know why I'm doing my conservation. Miguel says that before he got involved in lion conservation, he was no one significant. Lions have made him someone of influence, and they have helped him build his house and put a corrugated roof on. Eusebio says he dreams of lions every day, and wherever he goes in the reserve, people talk about lions or his family. Conservation is personal. And for every person on our team of 112, there is a different reason why they are doing conservation. And those reasons matter because it is the diversity of our connection to the species and the land and the way that we go about conservation and what we think about for our children and what we think about for our ancestors that makes conservation matter. 85% of our team are from the villages inside Niassa and live there. And what's my story? I tell my story to you in the photographs that I show you, because photography is the way that I interact with the land. But my story is also this small camp where I've lived for 22 years under a sausage tree. I know that the sausage tree loses her leaves the first week of September every year. I know what the air smells like because of the fire that we cook on. I know the sound of the hyenas that are near our camp, especially the one that whoops in a strange way. I know the pearl-spotted owl that for some reason calls off through the whole season, because this is my home and this is my story. I know that the view from my desk is extraordinary, and I often when I post on Facebook, I show you pictures of elephants that have crossed the river in front of when I'm writing a granting proposal. That's my story, and why am I connected to Niassa and the land? And if I asked these children what their story is, this was a few days ago with Ludensia, with a confiscated pangolin that we were releasing and rehabilitating in Niassa. The children who come to our environmental center got to see that pangolin for a few seconds and realize it wasn't a reptile, but it is a mammal. But we released the pangolin into Niassa, the 7th that we have done so far. It was wonderful to be able to watch it walk away into the bush. But the most extraordinary thing about the pangolin rehabilitation or whatever you do with conservation and the children who come to the environmental center, is how it gets repeated back to you as they learn these lessons. And David was talking about this just now. Suddenly we have a car race at the Lion Festival in November. And who should arrive in the car race but a pangolin? We've never seen a pangolin in the boys' race where they make cars that look like animals. And that is the stories that we tell and how they get connected into conservation. A man comes from outside the reserve and sees a lion for the first time. He owns the only cattle herd that is in close proximity to Niassa. This changes his life so he doesn't put poison out to kill those lions when they come to the cattle. There's a feminist slogan, and I think it actually came from a sociologist in the 1960s, some work that was done, that the personal is political. And I think that that will resonate with many of you here at this very moment in your history. And that is absolutely true, that your personal experiences are also related to the systems in which that you work and the injustice in which that comes, the laws and the systems and the injustice. And that's true of conservation as well. The people who are most affected by conservation are affected by the systems in which they are ignored, their voices aren't heard, and that they are sometimes excluded from protected areas. And that is a very important part of our work. We have 50 wildlife guardians in all the villages in Niassa who work to protect carnivores, they work to develop safe shelters, they work as citizen scientists. And this is allowing them to have a voice, so when a general management plan is written for the reserve, their voices are asked for because they understand what it is to live in this place with coexistence. And then we have a program in 10 communities with our community camera trapping program with performance payments. And we see pictures of the odd, like this ant bear or aardvark, the beautiful, like this sable antelope, the curious, like this African civet who comes up to see what's going on, and the feisty and the indomitable, the honey badgers, as they walk past and often destroy the camera traps in the process. And the absolutely spectacular, the leopard, the wonderful with their small calves, the elephants, and of course the lions. And every single one of these pictures and every single one of these animals earns income for these communities through performance payments. The pictures are shown in a public arena in these 10 communities. Every animal that they see earns a certain number of points, and the communities then are given money, which equals the points to buy whatever they need for their village. Just this week, our truck was distributing electric fencing wire, corrugated iron, bicycles, food, anything that the communities decided at a household level, because they need to earn money from the wildlife that they coexist with. And isn't that important, that they earn money from live animals rather than dead ones? And that's how you change a whole society. This is the bridge to revenue sharing for people who have always coexisted with wildlife and are the ones living with it and conserving it. We have many alternative livelihoods programs which do the same thing. One of the most successful is our beekeeping program, where we have hives in woodland that are used to create wildlife corridors. This program took 10 years to become successful, and in the last 2 years, we have been able to harvest 3 tons of honey, which has earned $30,000 for the communities. The communities buy their hives, buy honey, so we give them the hives and then they pay it back with 2 jars of honey, and then we market it across Mozambique and are able to sell it as elephant-friendly honey. And then we have our program with the Lion Coalition Project, which is to reduce the loss of the carnivores, because we know that lions are deeply affected by the illegal wildlife trade in teeth and claws. We are sponsoring more than 96 anti-poaching scouts across 14 intensive protection zones inside the protected area, where we collar lions and we train partners to have ops rooms where they can make sure that their anti-poaching scouts actually patrol and create a presence where lions are moving. And while the lion population in Niassa continues to decline over this vast landscape of 16,000 square miles, there are now pockets with our partners where they are starting to stabilize and increase. And that is a success for us. And just in this last week, we had a pride that has 10 cubs. That's the first time ever we've seen 4 females and 10 cubs. And it is right within very close to a village of 2,000 people. And underneath it all, and in our foundation of everything that we do, are our values. And most of all is the values of respect. Respect for people, respect for culture, respect for the environment, and respect for lions. And the second most important value is shova shova. Shova shova is you push, I push. We do this together. And we make sure that we do this collectively because conservation is personal and conservation is political. And as we create this basket of conservation that holds all our programs and holds all the people in Niassa and all our partners across Mozambique, we realize that there's room for others. And so my other hat is I co-founded the Women for Environment Africa, which was our opportunity with others to be able to find women environmental leaders across Africa, across more than 24 countries, to bring us all together in a one-year leadership program called We Lead, to create a movement through We Move, where we now have 80 women environmental leaders across the continent, with another 20 coming on board in the next month. Oh. I might have just messed the thing up. And finally, I'd like to call up onto the stage the Director of Impact and Conservation from Niassa Lions. Niassa Lions is the sister project to our project, a part of WCN. We collaborate with them on multiple levels. They've already been to us this year. We'll be going to them later. And I wanted to give Toby an opportunity to talk about a wonderful thing that Niassa Lions are doing. That is the very element of shova shova and everything that we believe in conservation. So welcome, Toby.
We all know the world is undergoing a biodiversity crisis. And the only way to tackle this is through collaboration, through inclusivity, and through coming together. Today is such a great example, and thank you so much, Colleen, for inviting me here. As we say shova shova in Niassa, in Kenya we say umoja ni nguvu. Togetherness is strength. We at Niassa Lions have been busy this year. Apart from doing our routine works, we've started all new projects. One of such projects that has been giving us sleepless nights and something that we've been working on for a very long time is what's coming in this coming November. In just a few weeks, we are so excited that several WCN partners will be joining us at Samburu in our camp. Agostino and Samuel from Niassa, Rosamira, Amanda, Peter, among many others, will unite with the Niassa Lions team and collectively will develop a framework for community-led conservation. Eventually, this framework will be shared globally, and we are so excited that the Niassa Lions will be shared its over 20 years experience with everyone else's lessons and experiences. Collectively, we can all make a greater impact in conservation. And so if you like to learn more what about we've been doing this year, please come and find me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the support, not just the support you've been giving to the Lions, but all your support in other wildlife. You are a part of this journey, and we cannot do it without you. So let's all come together and shova shova together. Thank you.